First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
I'm running way behind everything this morning. I have to take care of my wife's sick cat, and I don't want to get into it.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
It's cold.
Not good.
Again.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care. It was good for sleeping, wasn't it?
It was.
All right. Good morning. Sunshine. We may make 70 degrees today. It's going to take a little while to warm back up, and then we're looking smooth sailing in the mid to upper 70s. Might be Friday. We might actually hit 80 degrees, maybe even a little warmer than that. New York Mets are 80 degrees plus, very hot right now.
Yes, they are.
I can't believe they were down 2-0 and had a nice rally. I think that was in the third inning. I was watching the game. And pretty awesome to see him have another win since my New York team can't do jack diddly.
It is kind of right now a good time. But as I was reminded yesterday by, I don't even know who, was it Tim Julian? We're still waiting for the mid-season slump, which normally happens in May and lasts till about end of August. Yeah. But so far, we're not, how about Seth Lugo? Well, he got a little bit of trouble there in the ninth inning, but, man, he looked red hot in the eighth.
Yeah, and I don't know what the hell the Cubs were doing in the ninth inning.
I know.
Sending that guy was out by 35 feet.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Mets of old, that ball would have been somewhere like on the ground between first and home plate. That ball was spot on into home plate to throw from the cutoff man.
We'll take it. I was a little nervous to see Lugo in there, to be honest.
Looked so good in the eighth, and then in the ninth, did what he had to do. As
helter-skelter as Diaz can be sometimes. I guess he just had a night off.
Yeah, and 13 saves here. Okay, coming up, we'll get into much this morning. Our free money question from Opika we'll do. Of course, the big Putin-Biden showdown is coming up. And the House GOP reelection is posting another big month when it comes to fundraising. And Tiny J. Powers is on to update us with that. The more that you can send out the message that Democrats are going far left, Biden is going far left, the easier it is to raise money, it seems, for Republicans.
Well, yeah, the National Republican Congressional Committee gave their numbers yesterday for May. And they said that they raised more than $14 million in May. They said that was the third straight record-breaking fundraising month. Now, it is also important to note that $5 million of that was actually a transfer from the RNC. So that's do the math for yourself there. But yeah, that's just to let you know where some of that came from. The GOP is looking, as you mentioned, the House there, they need a net gain of 5 seats in 2022 to regain control of the House. So that's one of the reasons that they're really looking at the fundraising numbers and what they're able to do with that.
Well, it does. It bodes well for anticipation of the midterms, which is kind of what Monaski was talking about yesterday here. In that, if Republicans could just stop fighting, the infighting is foolish right now because you have an opportunity to win in the midterms. But it won't bode well if the Republicans and the Trump Republicans are battling it out and dividing.
Right. I mean, and that doesn't seem like it's going to go away anytime soon. There doesn't seem to be a lot of reaching across their own aisle, much less in any other way. And the other thing that you have to keep in mind, especially something that we saw in 2020, is the more some of these pieces of legislation are introduced by Republicans in states across the country, the more that activates Democrats to get out and vote.
Right.
Not to mention fundraising, stuff like that. And speaking of the Democrats, the DCCC has, which is the House Democrats' reelection arm, has not reported its May figures yet. I'm not sure exactly when we'll get those, but, they haven't given their number yet, which is why I don't have that one for you today.
Okay. Tanya, have a wonderful day.
I will. You too.
All right. Thanks so much. Tanya J. Powers from Fox News. Chuck Schumer's in trouble. Well, he's not going to be in trouble, but, he's in trouble. He's going to get the slap on the hand. In the category of how do you like it, Schumer is being has had to come out and apologize. I can't believe he doesn't know that this word is kind of a no-no word that you don't use. Outdated.
Oh, I didn't hear
But he's
this.
he's had to apologize because of a word that he used during a podcast on the One NYCHA podcast on Sunday. Children with development issues should not be referred to as by using the R word, and he did. And he used it in a naive and respectful way, if there is such a thing. But do you want me to read the quote? When I first was assemblyman, they wanted to build a congregate living place for retarded children, said Schumer. That is definitely a...
How does he not know that?
I don't know. And listen, I understand people are like, well, you can't say anything anymore. Well, that is a word
That's been
if you can't
established as a no-no.
If you can't suck it up and not use that word, then you're an idiot.
And to be
Sorry
fair,
to
I
use
think
the I word, but I did.
cancel.
some people would actually argue not that we can't say anything more. It's certain people can't see anything anymore. Like Schumer's, if this is a Republican politician, I feel like there's outrage over this.
Well, I guess there would be maybe it would be different. I guess maybe they're giving Schumer a pass because he is so somebody who is so worried about being politically correct, right? For someone that is hyper politically correct and they make a mistake and use a word that they shouldn't use versus someone who isn't politically correct. Don't you think it's natural to?
I guess so, yeah.
But in this case, he's getting some heat over it, as he should. He should know
he certainly
better.
should.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not. That's
I
not
think he's
like a
getting-
new one. I feel like it's been a while. Like when I was in high school, they were saying
You can't say that.
yeah.
you can't say the R word.
Well, wasn't it Governor Cuomo himself who, I think it was a few years back now, it all blends together, but he had used the N-word on a podcast,
Oh yeah.
referring to him. Well, he just said it. And now he was referring to himself as, using this expression is like calling,
Yes.
by calling an Italian, this is like calling a black person blank. And he said it.
I mean, Schumer needs to know that you're in New York City. You never use the word Republican. And he did. So he's in trouble.
We wanted to have a whole complex for Republicans.
Well, for decades, Senator Schumer has been an ardent champion. This is what the apology is on Monday. For decades, Senator Schumer has been an ardent champion for enlightened policy and full funding of services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, said spokesperson Angelo Rufaro in a statement. Angelo, of course, from here, the former mayor's nephew. He is sincerely sorry for his use of the outdated and hurtful language. One NYCHA, also known as One NYCHA, spelled one versus the digit one, as if I care, describes itself as a podcast and a movement that highlights public housing issues and progress within New York City. I feel like when he probably used the word, there were most likely producers around with earbuds, not headphones, and their jaws must have dropped. Like, I can't imagine what happened when he used that word there. Anyway, Rufaro says that Schumer is so upset he can't make the apology himself, that he has had to make the apology. He didn't say that, but I thought I'd add that commentary.
Okay, I thought that was a real addition there.
Could you imagine? He's so upset that I've had to give the apology.
I couldn't bring myself to say that I was sorry.
It's kind of a slightly tweaked Cuomo.
I know. That's what I noticed. That's why I wish it would have ended.
I think
Before when I started.
Yeah.
Obviously, at some point, I think during Schumer's life, that word was acceptable, and
No doubt about it.
because it was used differently. It's funny,
And he's used it in one would say a non-offensive way. It's not like you're calling somebody a name. He's using it to describe children with developmental issues, and
Right.
it is just outdated. It's one of those things where it's just outdated.
Right.
And I got to tell you, it's tough to keep up.
It is tough to keep
That
up.
one though that one's probably
that one's
pretty well
not
out.
really a
well
newsflash,
known, right? That's well known out there.
The other thing is, I think a lot of times, and we'll continue to see this in language, it's like at one point that word didn't mean what it came to mean. People used it in a negative way or to
Sure.
put others down.
Yes.
But it actually had a legitimate meaning, and it was a word used to describe.
At one point it was clinical. It was a
Right.
clinical word.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see, like, the word that's what often used, I think, nowadays is developmentally disabled.
Yeah.
Thank you. But, like, if comedians and talk shows and high school bullies start using that word in a negative, derogatory term,
Yeah.
in 15 years, you're going to go, you can't use the word developmentally disabled anymore because it's now taken on a new meaning.
What I love is this just shows you, though, that the world is so upside down that, like, what is interesting to observe, human nature. And that is Schumer has used this word, and we're criticizing him for it, and he's had to come out and apologize. Mm-hmm. And you have these people out there that are like, well, he helps out these children and families, so, I mean, you got to give him a pass. Whereas if it was a Republican that said it, as you said, they might be, you need to resign after saying this. On the other hand, you have Republicans out there that are like, if this was a Republican that we said this about, it's like, oh my God, you can't say anything anymore. This is ridiculous. Meanwhile, they're like, yeah, I can't believe Schumer did that. That piece of, it just shows you that we have lost our ability to just judge people for who they are.
Yes. And to take an objective look and say, what was the intent here?
Completely lost the ability.
Yeah.
If you're on my team, you can do no wrong. If you're on their team, you can do no right.
Everything's wrong.
And it's both sides, people. This is not a indictment on one side or the other.
You're
Is
right.
this silence for a reason, or we just?
No, I mean,
okay.
I don't even want to refute it.
Objectively,
All right.
I was agreing in silence.
Very
thinking about
amazing
what
that
you
we've
said.
started out a day like this. Lee Center on June 3rd was confirmed a tornado, and there's an interesting story in the day talking about a farming family that has lost their cattle as part of this. The barn actually was completely. There's a picture in the OD. It was a pretty substantial hurricane or tornado.
Wow.
So I think, if I remember correctly, because I had written that story the day after it happened, they were able to protect most of the cattle. Is that right? But one maybe got away.
I
and
feel
some
like
chickens.
the part is it's kind of really done enormous damage to the barn and that sort of thing. But it wasn't just one farm. It hit. It swept through Lee Center.
I don't want to burst your bubble, but we're no longer allowed to use tornado. It's a significant weather event.
It is. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go to Tony, who is in Herkimer. And good morning, Tony.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. What's up?
Oh, well, the Subway franchise seems to use that terminology, the R word, into their proofing of their breads.
Oh, well, I got to tell you, that word is used in certain industries. You're absolutely right. So if how do they use it, by the way?
Well, they say their bread is like going through a retarded format, I guess.
Yeah.
As into their baking process or their breads or their proofing of their breads, I guess.
Yeah, which means almost a what would you say?
It's a slow bake. I mean, I think the origin of it is something to so like if you a fire retardant to slow down the fire.
That's
there you go. There's another terminology.
Great example, Andrew. Yep, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, I mean, that is okay, I guess, but when you're describing a person, it's not okay.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Apparently, you can't describe a person as Oriental anymore either. That is not.
You can't say anything of anything anymore.
Well,
we're getting way over top now.
Tony, you can describe a rug, however, as Oriental, but not a person, just for the record.
Oh, Lord.
All right, Tony, thank you.
No problem.
Have a great day. And I don't mean to make light. I really do not. I feel like there are certain things. I know people who have children who have had issues, and that word can be used in a very hurtful way. And it is not something that is acceptable these days. Period. So it is what it is.
I thought I just saw something. I don't know if I was watching a documentary or what it was, but where people of Asian descent were referred to as Oriental, and I was like, wait, I thought that was inappropriate.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Oriental is not a way of.
Do we ever double back on these and go, it turns out we're wrong?
It's a nostalgic thing. We've
decided it's no longer offensive. Go ahead, call them that.
I don't think Oriental is the proper way to describe a human.
I didn't either, but
Angelo.
Any word that you can turn into an adjective, you can make offensive.
That's true. You're right.
So there's a great Carlin bit about words and how like the word handicapped is now offensive.
Right.
And it's the same thing. If you use anything in a derogatory way, it's just going to turn offensive.
But it's not. It's not offensive when using it as a parking space.
This is true.
Right. So
yeah, that's what I was trying to say earlier. At
so,
some point, it just becomes a hate word.
You have a drum roll? Do you have a drum roll that you could throw at me here this morning? We can change the topic a little bit.
Well, do you really
I just wanted to follow up on one part of it.
Oh, you do? Yeah. You got to follow up?
Also, this phoner is not changing the topic.
No. Okay, good. Well, I'm going to slightly divert before revert.
Of course.
A diversion before a reversion.
Go ahead. You want to go
Speaking of words.
I was just going to say the definition of Oriental, according to Merriam-Webster, of or relating to or situated to the Orient or Eastern, sometimes offensive. And so Merriam-Webster says
sometimes offensive to people.
Well, so there's an article here at the LA Times. It's written by Jane Suchimaya. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. It is now politically incorrect to use the word Oriental, and the admonition has the force of law. President Obama recently signed a bill prohibiting the use of the term on all federal documents. Representative Grace Meng, the New York Congresswoman, sponsored the bill, exalted that at long last the insulting and outdated term was gone for good. This author says, as an Oriental, I am bemused. Apparently, Asians are supposed to feel demeaned if someone refers to us as Orientals.
So she's saying she's okay with it.
Yeah, but good luck finding a single Asian American who has ever had the word spat at them in anger. I don't know.
Because the definition is describing where geographically.
I get it.
Yeah.